toru. Welcome back to another Mind the Mic podcast. I'm your host, Shubs, here with a very, very, very special guest in the building, Erina Morunga, from Morunga Migration, a migration agent, I guess you'd say, but for anybody that doesn't know who you are, Erina, can you fill us in?
Yeah.
All the rest of it. Where you come from? All that.
So I live in South Australia, been here since 2007. I hail from a small town back home up in Northland called Moerewa, or Motown, if you've ever heard of Motown,
Yes, I have.
where I grew up, and my whānau originate from the Hokianga. So that's kind of where my roots are. And then we moved to Australia with our kids and my husband. We moved across and just really come across to give the kids an experience of what it's like, because prior to moving here, we were actually living in Dargaville, and I was a new teacher. I had finished teachers training college, and I got my first job at a place called Te Kōpuru out just out past Dargs. So I worked there for a few years, did my full registration, and then we decided to bring 4 of our kids across. One of our eldest was already living in Brisbane at the time, and the other 4 were still in school.
Oh, 5.
Oh, yeah, 5. Yeah. So a couple of them were in high school and a couple of them were in primary school at that time. So we thought, oh, look, let's get them out of New Zealand. Let's show them a little bit of the world. Australia is easy to come to because, hey, you just need a passport. You don't need to worry about visas or, even the fact that we speak the same language and all that kind of stuff. So it just seemed easy.
I don't know. No.
That's true. Well, we thought we did. Yeah. So we thought, if it doesn't work out over in Aussie, it's no big deal. Like, we just move back home. So we come over here, and then we planted our roots down. We just put the kids into school, started looking for jobs, and we got a whare. We actually organised a whare before we moved over through a real estate, so we were real lucky in that respect. And we just started putting one foot in front of the other, which I'm sure most of us do when we come across to Aussie, especially, and don't really know what we're kind of doing or where we're going to head with our lives. But we figured, let's just go over for a while. We always intended to go home one day, and I think my experience as a migration agent, but meeting lots of migrants here in Aussie, it's interesting because a lot of people call Aussie home. But and we call it home too. It's our home as well, but we always still refer to Aotearoa as home, like it's still home. Because I've made friends with people from around the world, and they go, oh no, that's not my home anymore. Australia's my home. I go, oh yeah, it's our home too, but home is home.
Yeah.
Home will always be home.
Yeah, for sure. So, you said you were a teacher. What kind of teaching were you doing in just out of Dargaville?
So I started off teaching in bilingual. So I spent about 2 and a bit years working in the bilingual unit. There was a couple of classrooms. We only had a real small country school. I think we had about 6 or 7 classes, and 2 of the classes were bilingual. So I taught the juniors, and then my colleague, he had the older kids. And
so what's the age range from in the juniors? What's the age range from in the juniors?
Yeah, they were from 5 to 8 years old, or turning 9, and then they'd go off into the other class for the older kids, and then they'd go off to they'd normally go off to high school from there. Actually, they stayed with us for the intermediate years as well.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But that was awesome. Yeah, that was a cool experience working with the staff out there and with all the kids. And funny too, because I always felt like the place felt like home. I'd never been there before, apart from when I went there for my job interview, and it was out of it because I felt like, oh man, that's that feeling. I've got that feeling like when I go home back to our tūranga waiwai. And do you know what I mean? When you're getting closer to home, you get that feeling of home. I had that feeling there, and I'd never been there before. I thought, oh, this is a bit trippy. And I remember I'd been there for about a year, and we do home visits for parent-teacher interviews because we were a bilingual unit. So rather than the parents coming to the kura, we'd go to them, and we just were. It was awesome because we could kind of do things that, you know, in a more culturally appropriate type way and more comfortable. So, and it was on one of the visits that I was talking to, you know, this couple that they were parents of some of the kids I was teaching, and typical, you know, of Māori, we start talking about whakapapa and layer upon layer, and it turned out some of my tupuna actually moved out to that area. There was a big, that's a huge bit of history. It's actually in books.
Oh, true. So
Funny,
yeah, that
funny
literally
story,
was
but
home in a way.
it literally was. And and so my tupuna were buried in the cemetery just by this home where our place called Oture, and it was crazy because the bulk of the kids that I was teaching turned out to be all whanaunga. And
Wow.
that was
It's
trippy
crazy.
as.
Yeah, tricky
Yeah.
for sure.
Anyway, we're
And
going
like
off
that's
this
something that you
off
can't. No.
topic.
Okay, the point. This is that's sweet. Like that's because it'd be hard to explain to someone that maybe doesn't understand. You know what I mean? Like it's not a tangible thing that you can. But like you had that feeling, that wairua, the pulling, the
Yeah.
calling of like hey, I feel like, you know, I've been here before, sort of a thing.
Yeah, and it's quite a drive. Like I was still living in Whangarei at the time when I first
Oh,
started
true.
working there.
What's
So I
the
used to live in
distance?
Whangas. Oh, it's about 75 k's each way. So I used to drive out
Oh, yeah,
there,
journey.
and so drive out in the dark, come home in the dark. But I did that for probably about 8-9 months, and then we decided to move out to Dargs.
Just
And spent
for
time
people
there.
that don't know, 75 k's back home, that's a long way. Australia, that's down the
Especially in the
road.
country.
Australia, that's just down the road. 75 k's, that's normal.
Yeah, especially in the country with the windy roads and everything. Yeah, it was a mission.
No, cool. So, what do you think that? What kind of lessons do you think you got out of that experience? Like for that, you know, help prepare you for the rest of your journey.
Yeah, well, it's funny, I come to Australia, started teaching here, and I was about in my 3rd or 4th year teaching here, and I had this kind of another feeling come over me that said, you're not going to be a teacher forever.
Oh,
And I remember saying to my colleagues then, I said, oh, I don't know what's going on with me, but I feel like this is just a stepping stone. It was all about the experiences. But one of the things I learned from working out at TK, we call it Te Kōpuru, one of the things that I got to enjoy and experience was teaching kapahaka with my other teacher, bilingual teacher colleagues, and we taught kapahaka harder. And I actually thought coming to South Australia in particular, it's not like going to Melbourne or Sydney or Brisbane or even Perth, where a lot of Māori are. I
up to
thought that
Perth.
those I thought those skills would be not useful here or not needed or wanted here. And
Yeah.
I actually ended up teaching kapahaka in the primary school I taught in Australia. I taught hundreds and hundreds of kids, kapahaka, Aussie kids. So the odd
That's really
Māori
cool.
kid here and there, but was predominantly Aussie kids. And that was a cool experience. That was something I was able to bring over. But even just that whole transitioning from teaching into something else, knowing that something else was happening, I couldn't put my finger on it, but I just felt inside me. But the teaching side of my life has been really crucial to helping bring about education. So I'm a real advocate for education. And when I went into this kind of area of migration, trying to communicate this confusing area of law to particularly our people, because I was focusing on the unique stuff about New Zealanders in Australia.
Yeah.
Having, you can be really good at something, but you can't show other people how to do it because you don't have that teaching, the skills to teach, or sometimes the patience. But I think that's what helped me. And I've always been about education. And even to this day, I'm all about, I want people to be informed, make informed decisions. Don't just do stuff because, that's just the way it is, or the attitude of, the belief systems that we seem to form without even questioning. It's crazy. Like one of them was, I'm never becoming an Aussie citizen. Nah, no way. Shame. you know.
Yeah, that's a huge one. I've definitely thought that over the years too. Like being here quite a while, I
Yeah,
definitely thought exactly that for sure. Like,
yeah,
but it's more a sense of pride of home, and even but then at the same time, you're like, bro, you live your fucking life here. Like my kids are born here. Like I don't see
yeah,
myself moving home anytime soon. Or why wouldn't I? I have a, but yeah, so like I definitely
yeah.
can relate to that
Mm.
feeling or that quoted or that those words that you just spoke for sure.
Oh,
And
look,
I've heard it many a time
but their
from
belief
many people.
systems.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and they become really ingrained belief systems. And I, specifically remember when we moved here in 2007, I was looking into trying to get citizenship sorted out for the kids because I
Okay.
thought, oh man, I knew about the dole. Like, who doesn't know that you can't go on the dole? That's just a normal thing that everyone knows. And we don't care because we don't move to Aussie to go on the dole.
Mm.
And it was frustrating because we always seem to have to justify it when this corridor came up, and social media, Facebook forums, all that kind of stuff. There was always this, suddenly you went into defense mode. No, I didn't come here to go on the dole. Why? Because people would say, why are you asking about becoming a citizen? Like,
Like,
shame
is that
kind
your
of thing.
intention? Yeah.
Yeah, your intention is to go on the dole. And it's like, there's actually more to citizenship than just going on
The
the
dough.
dole, like a hell of a lot more. And but those conversations, you just didn't even feel safe in those social media settings, especially because of the attacks that people would get if they asked about citizenship or anything to do with that.
Mm.
Like, it was like a real tapu subject to talk about. It had a real sensitive note. But then, so from there, I grappled with it for years. So from 2007 all the way up to 2013, so however many years it is, what's that, 6 years,
6.
I
Mm.
grappled with this whole kaupapa. Like, and I mean grapple, couldn't sleep properly at night, was just always consumed by it, was trying to
Yeah.
be a normal person, like not even worry about it, but I just couldn't let it go. And I don't know how else to describe it really, but it was just something that was constantly in the back of my mind, bothering me. And I couldn't understand why are not other people not bothered by this. Like, this really affects our kids. This really affects our future. So that's how I was looking at it. And I was looking at it more from education. I thought, I want my kids to become citizens. So if they want to go to uni, which none of them did, by the way, they just they're not
Hey, but at
they're
least
not
the intent
interested
was
in
there.
that.
At least the intent was there. At least you had it there for them. Hey?
Yeah. I just wanted them to, I don't know, just to me, it was important that they be able to access that. Unbeknownst to me, that we actually didn't have access to a ton of things, not just the
Yeah, not
dole
just the
or
dough.
hex loans. There was
Mm.
heaps of things, and more stuff came to light. So yeah, going down that path of, and one day I remember it was March in 2013. I just said to my husband, I've had enough of this. I've had enough of nobody knowing how things work. I'm going to start trying to teach myself,
Yeah.
and that's where it started
Are you
for
a citizen
me.
at this stage or no? You're not yet.
No. So I'm like, this is wrong. And I thought, okay, I'm a school teacher. Aussie says they only want skilled people. Okay, I've got skills. Oh no, you've got to have certain skills. And then in many ways, we were, as New Zealanders, we were shooting ourselves in the foot because a lot of us were coming over with our skills. So what was happening is that the skills list was shrinking here in Aussie because we were already here filling a lot of the skills anyway.
Mm.
So, and there's heaps of stuff that goes on with that. But I decided that I'd just start trying to teach myself. And I started printing off every article I could find, sticking it all over the walls in my house, and just trying to create timelines and understand politics.
Wow.
Oh, it
Ah,
was
you're really
crazy.
into it, eh? Let's go.
Highlighters.
That's
I
awesome.
remember going to this. I remember going to the supermarket, and just because it was one evening, and supermarket, and I bought some reams of paper, white paper, the A4 paper, and threw them in the
Mm.
thing, pens, highlighters, blue tack, and went home, and I had my printer, and I was just said, nah. Basically, I went, nah, fuck it. I'm going to start learning myself because no one can teach
Yeah.
me. Nobody knows. So
You've got to
I
be a good
started.
detective, eh?
I reckon hard. And so yeah, it just started plastering the walls with as much information, anything I could find. I started a little private Facebook group called Kiwis Seeking Permanent Residency and Australian Citizenship.
Yeah.
Like a big long blooming title, but I thought, well, I don't know what else to call it. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And
Yeah.
funnily enough, to this day, that group is still going, still pumping.
How many
I
members you got
hardly
in there
do.
now? Well, you don't use you still use
Oh,
it?
I don't even
Or
know. About 7,000-8,000 people still sitting in there. Yeah,
yeah.
but I left it for years. I didn't even do anything with it. And I almost deleted it actually last year. But I thought, oh no, I need to keep that. That's part of the history of this
Yeah,
whole
that's your journey.
journey.
Aye.
Yeah.
That's the
So I
whakapapa
just
of
deleted
Morunga
it.
Migration.
Yeah, and then I at the time I started that group, within a couple of weeks I met someone else online through Facebook who had started. She just created Oz Kiwi, the Facebook page,
Yep.
and there was a small group of us that. Because I said, hey, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to suss it out, and so we started. Like it was cool because it was like, oh man, I found some people that are into this, like hardcore into
Yeah.
this,
You can learn
and
quicker that way too, eh?
yeah, we were
You learn,
sharing our ideas
sharing
and
your ideas. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
man, and it
I
was
just
real buzzy. It was real
It
buzzy.
reminds me
So
of they follow Mr. Beast or nah, the YouTuber.
no,
He's a YouTuber. He's like the biggest YouTuber in the world. But when he hundreds of millions of YouTube subscribers, and his videos, a lot of his videos, everything he gets, most of it he just gives away to people. Like that's his whole whakaaro is just like that's been his journey from the beginning. Really, his first big video
yeah.
was giving a guy $10,000, like a
Oh
homeless guy.
wow.
So like so his thing. But he said when he was when he first decided like this is 100% what I want to do, he connected with another 3 other guys, and they were all in the same space trying to create, and they learned together, and they'd sit on calls and like every day. And so when you learn thing once, you're learning it 4 times faster. He was saying so. That's what
Yep.
when I hear
Two.
what you're saying there, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, too true. So we started bouncing ideas, and then we decided to collaborate. So rather than kind of, we decided to put all our eggs in one basket. So at that point, I jumped on with their crew and started doing Oz Kiwi. But then there were some differences in our kind of views about how we should approach this. Because on one hand, you had the educational side, which I was all for. But on the other hand, I also wanted to lobby government for change, because I was actually getting, the more I learned, the angrier I got.
Okay, she'll be back in a moment, fam. Anybody that's listening audibly.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, there
Are we there?
we are.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I really wanted to lobby the government for change, because oh man, I had some bones to pick over heaps. Because the more I learned, when you can't unknow stuff once you know it. You know, and there was just things going on that I thought were so inhumane. So
Have you got some examples you can speak on?
So yeah, things like single parents. So single mums, for example, can't get single parent payments. And then they were falling into things like having to turn to things like prostitution or peddling drugs to try and bring in some money. Domestic violence, they couldn't escape from it. Our homeless people couldn't access anything. And like if you've got mental health issues, if you've got mental health issues, you know, and you've got medication. And then I learned that when homeless people have mental health issues and have medication, they become a target because people want to steal their meds off them. And you know that. But the thing, as a New Zealand citizen, we couldn't access any kind of financial support. We couldn't access a lot of the social services because you had to have a Centrelink number to be able to access things like Women's Refuge, homeless shelters, all sorts of things. So, and then education, what happens to our kids once they finish high school? They can't even access higher education. So that's a glass ceiling for them. We're also learning about our kids in high school. Some of them were having to finish school early because mum and dad couldn't work for whatever reason, might have got sick, might have got injured, and they had to finish school early so they could go and work and bring in enough money to try and help cover the rent and put pie on the table. Kids coming from broken homes, our tamariki, they couldn't access youth allowance. So there was heaps of stuff, heaps and heaps of stuff. Like, this goes way beyond just the dole. It goes way beyond just the dole.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then you had
I
some
can hear the
really
passion
out
in
of
your
it.
voice. I can hear the passion in your voice right now.
Yeah,
About
and
you.
insurances were, you know, and then suddenly people were finding out, oh, you're a temporary visa holder. Oh, hang on. In Melbourne, they were restricting our kids from being able to get student rates on bus tickets, like concession rates, because of our
True.
visa status. Nothing to do with
Wow.
being a student
That's
at
crazy.
school.
Really?
Heaps of
Just
stuff
because of
that,
visa status, they weren't allowed to
yeah,
get the concession tickets.
yeah, you can Google all
Holy
this
Rick.
kind of
Oh
stuff.
no,
Oh,
I
it's
believe you. I
crazy.
just never heard it. That just sounds
Crazy.
crazy to me. Like out the gate.
Yeah, it was. And so anyway, there was heaps of stuff, and I share a little bit in one of my TikToks about how my husband and I became foster carers. So we're quite passionate about wanting to, you know, awhi kids in care, and we felt
Yep.
that we had a good home, stable home, blah blah blah. So we went
Yep.
down that path, and this is what kind of really kicked off the whole activism side, because what happened was we experienced firsthand I was going to say the word discrimination, but our foster kids who were Australian citizens couldn't access certain types of help because of our immigration status.
Oh, really? So they
So
allow you to be foster carers as because of that immigration status, but they won't allow you to. They block the children from accessing certain care. That's crazy. Even though they're
yeah, it's
Australian
stupid.
citizens.
And it wasn't even major stuff, but it was the principle of it all. It was like, no, 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 no. So up until that point, I used to just swallow this bloody hard pill of suck it up, handle it. You made the decision to come to Aussie. You're bad for not doing your homework properly. Your kids are going to suffer as a result. You're going to have to sort your shit out and go back to New Zealand. Like, seriously, you can't find a way around all of this immigration, and nobody can help you. Nobody knows how it works. And every time you called immigration, they would say, oh, well, this is why we made the changes to the laws, so you fellas couldn't, you know, drain us of our social security and all of our houses and da da da. It was just bullshit. It was utter bullshit.
Yeah. That's just the narrative they
And
paint, huh?
oh yeah, and they really did believe it, seriously. And but then when I started doing my homework, I found out, hang on, we're the highest tax-paying migrant in Australia because we're the highest working migrant. And we're 10% higher than Australian citizens. And when the laws changed in 2001, that prevented us from becoming citizens and being able to access Centrelink and that kind of stuff if we needed it, we were the highest back then too. And I was like, hang on, this doesn't make any sense. They reckon they changed the laws because too many New Zealanders were coming to Aussie and we were being a threat to the system.
But the stats
But
don't match
actually,
up.
we were the biggest contributors to the system. So how is it that you say the ones that are putting the most money into the bucket for
Yeah.
social security are the biggest
Taking the
threat
most
at
out.
the same time? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Should make some TikToks about that fight. Yeah.
I know. Well, it's pretty hard to try and condense these in 60 seconds and that. But
Yeah, that is hard. That is hard, but
yeah.
I'm sure you'll get there. Hey, the more you put out, just keep putting them out there. Eventually, you'll get to it.
Yeah. So and so yeah, I was with Kiwi for a while, and I really wanted to lobby for change and do the activism side. No, you know,
She wasn't down with that lady,
some of the
or
others, like, they were
some of
not
them.
down with it. And within weeks to few months, there was real big factions within the group. So we all kind of split up, and I ended up going out. I bailed in the end. That's another long story, and in fact, it's quite a traumatic story because there was a lot of
Tell
shit
us about
that
it.
oh God, no. Oh look, there's some awful things that happened in the sense of I got trolled really badly from ex-members of that group, and they were a lot more sophisticated with technology than I was. I was not so up to speed with using things like Facebook. I was a real novice, so I didn't have the skills to be able to navigate even the GoFundMe. There was a GoFundMe. I was doing quite a bit of traveling around the country at that time. I was paying for it out of my own pocket, but people were putting in koha to help reimburse me some of my flights and stuff like that. I never saw a
When you
cent of
say
that.
traveling around the country, what were you doing at this time? Just education, just educating people on
Yeah, I
what
was
you had
running
researched?
free information sessions. I was just going around. I was like, boom, come on, people, we need to know this stuff. And I was, I was doing heaps of information sessions, talking to the media, and we did a documentary through Native Affairs. So Native Affairs come over from New Zealand and did a doco, and that was kind of the beginning and the end of that thrust our kaupapa really out. Like, it literally went viral overnight, but man, there was so much hara, hatred, vitriol that came about from that, because what it was we did a story on this whānau, or well, Native Affairs did a story on this whānau that wanted to tell their story, and it was a real sad story. The mum and dad had kids. I think there was about 5 tamariki. They were all quite young. The eldest girl, she was about 11 at the time, and she was a really talented singer, play music, all that kind of stuff. But mum and dad had a cleaning business, and mum had young children. Dad got a really serious back injury, spinal injury. So he couldn't work properly. So what was happening, cutting a long story short, you can look this up. This is still online, this doco. And what happened was the daughter was going out with the dad at night to help clean the offices. So she was, and she was only young, but it was the only way they could survive to keep the roof over their head. It was a survival thing. So she was doing the vacuuming, have the thing, and she'd often be tired for school the next day, so she'd miss days of school. There was all sorts of stuff happening, but Native Affairs did that, and we really wanted to highlight, and this whānau wanted to help highlight the issues that can go wrong. And it wasn't as simple as them just being able to go back home. There's a lot of reasons why a lot of New Zealanders don't return back home to New Zealand. For many people, it's a safety thing. And this particular whānau, this was a safety thing. They actually couldn't believe it or not, sometimes New Zealanders get protection visas granted to them, even though we don't need a visa to remain in Australia. Anyway, that's another story. But so what happened was the doco went out. It really highlighted, holy heck, what the heck's going on here? Why can't this whānau be supported? And at the same time, the whānau got really attacked. Like, how could you do that to your child? And but you know what it's like. Unless you've walked in those shoes, you don't know what it's really like. And sometimes you've got to make some hard decisions. And I really felt for them, because they willingly put themselves out there, but man, we stood by them hard. And it was mostly our own people that attacked them hardcore. It was so sad. And it was like they're doing this to help all of us. They're throwing themselves under the bus because they understand the depths of the problem, and they are willing to sacrifice themselves. But I don't know if that whānau ever fully recovered from the hurt from that, but it was really about raising, and they were brave enough to put themselves, it was about raising awareness. And and you can Google it, you'll see all the different stories of lots of people coming forward to the media about their cases. But I know most of our families that we were working with, they were too shy. Like, who wants to put their stuff out there for the world to not only see but judge? And a lot of people aren't in that. They don't want to do that, and I don't blame them. But anyway, so we were very grateful but sad. But at that time, it caused a hell of a rift between our crew in this group. And at that time, I had set up a bit of a committee with people that I thought I could trust, that we all had the same kind of goals, and that we ended up having a bit of a fallout. And I said, look, rather than me stay there and argue, because I just can't be bothered with that. That's not why I was there. I was only wanting to be part of something that wants to lobby for change, really. I just decided I would rather walk away and do my own thing. And so I did. So I walked away and created another Facebook group called Iwi and Oz. And so we just kind of continued on, and you know, it was like, we wish them the best and we hope that, and the way I looked at it, like, the more forks you have got fighting for the same types of issues, and you can come from different angles, and people have got choices about who they would align with more, because at the end of the day, we're all fighting for the same thing, right? We just want what's fair, right? The longevity. You can't tell me that people can live in a country indefinitely forever and never be able to access citizenship. That's just wrong. Like, that doesn't even make sense. I don't even know another country in the world that lets that happen. And this is part of our problem. We were kind of really naive, because a lot of us only ever come to Australia. For many New Zealanders, Australia's the only country we've ever travelled to overseas.
Yep.
So we're not like from other parts of the world where, you know, we come from Europe, for example, you tend to have a lot of experience traveling. You speak more than one language easily, blah, blah, blah. Us, we come over here, we don't even apply for a visa. We've got no clue what the heck, how it all works. For those of us that have been here for many years, even before the days of passports in 1981, we think we're all good. We think, oh, I've been here for years, I'm a permanent resident, I don't need citizenship.
Hold up, is that when passports first came out, 1981?
Well, that was when passports were first needed to come to Australia from New Zealand.
Oh, so we didn't have to. We could just go backwards and forwards without them.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anzacs, huh?
Yeah. So there was, and 81 was when the passports were needed to come to Australia. So there were all of these different things happening. And so we're quite naive. This is my opinion. I think we're quite naive when it comes to immigration stuff.
Yeah.
And because we come from Aotearoa with our New Zealand passport, or maybe prior without a passport.
Yeah.
We didn't have to fill out any paperwork apart from the incoming passenger card. You know, are you bringing any food, plants? You know, do you have a criminal record? Blah, blah, blah. That little incoming passenger card. Apart from that, we don't do anything. We come through the airport. We're lucky. We get let through.
Yep.
But to this very day, we are still the only migrant that does not get told what our immigration status is.
Yeah, that's
we
right.
are the only migrant that have to know this. And honestly, the only way you can really, truly know it is if you study immigration law. Nobody's going to study immigration law, apart from a few of us silly, crazy
like you
people.
Did, eh? Like you did. Hey, you found a pain point in society. Boom.
We don't even know that, you talk 10, 11 years ago, if you'd said to a New Zealander, you've got a visa, they'd say, no, I don't.
No, I don't.
No. And you said to them, did you know that you're a temporary resident? Nah, I've been living here for ages, since the 80s, since the 70s, since the 90s. Nah, I'm a permanent resident. Or actually, did you know that technically you're a temporary resident? And then you've got
What is that? Oh, carry on. Sorry.
Yeah. No, us.
What like, can you define the differences between, like, can you just like specify what the differences are between each one and where we sit, or where certain people sit if you're in whatever bracket?
Yeah. I think the easiest way that I can describe it is I liken it like a driver's license. The process to applying for a driver's license. So, with your driver's license, you got a learner's license.
Yeah.
Then you got your P plate, or you're restricted. And then you've got your full license, right? With immigration, when you come in on a visa, your visa is either going to be in the learner's license category, so the temporary type of visas, or it's going to be in the P plate category, which is like your permanent visas. Or if you become a citizen, then that's the equivalent to a driver's license. Okay. When we come across, so what happens for us New Zealanders is that we're granted a visa called the Special Category Visa Subclass TY444. That's the technical name for it. Yep. By legal definition, that is a temporary visa.
Okay.
So that's equivalent to an L plate.
Yep.
Okay. Now, normally you can't go from an L plate to a full driver's license. You got to go through that P plate process first. that's what normally happens in immigration here. So normally if you're going to come in on a temporary visa, you have to find a way to get your P plate or a permanent visa before you can apply for Australian citizenship. Now this only happens to us, no one else. So New Zealanders in 1994, our visa, the special category visa, was first created on the 1st of September 1994. Prior to that, we didn't have visas. So it was true, we didn't have visas. But what we didn't know, and we didn't get told, is that for all of us that are in Australia, the moment we travel overseas and come back into the country, so let's say you've been living here since 1970.
Yeah.
You go overseas on an overseas trip, say in 1995, you come back, you're granted that L plate.
Oh,
automatically.
even though you were here before it.
Yeah,
Wow.
so the traveling into Australia activates that visa. You have to travel through the borders, come through customs, and then that enlivens that visa. So if you were here, living here since 1970, but you travelled after the 1st of September 1994 when the visa was introduced, when you come through, it's activated. The problem for us is that it's all automated, it's computerized, and we weren't told. To this very day, we are the only migrant that does not get given a visa grant letter that explains what your visa is, what your status is, and what if you've got any conditions on that visa.
Oh, wow. And is that because it's all automated? Everybody else gets theirs because they have to apply for a visa to come here and that.
Yeah. Yeah. So on one hand, we go, oh, sweet, nice and easy for us. We don't have to apply for a visa. But actually, the downside is we also don't know what we've just been granted. So we're none the wiser. And then, you know, in Australian terms, they use basic English words like permanent resident. Now, if you live in Australia permanently and you ask a New Zealand citizen, what status are you? They'll go, I live in Australia permanently. And you go, oh, so are you a temporary resident or permanent resident? What are they going to say?
Permanent.
Oh, no, I'm a permanent resident because I live here permanently.
I've been there for ages. I've been there for ages too, like you said. Yeah.
But unbeknownst to you, you actually hold that L plate. You hold a temporary visa, but it's the only temporary visa in Australia that allows a person to remain indefinitely, to pay taxes. You're allowed to work. You don't have to ask for permission to work. You can buy a house. You can do many things on our visa. And this is where the kind of illusion starts to really play, that we've got pretty much all the rights that we need. So we think. But it's not until something goes wrong or laws change that it becomes more apparent that our L plate is not sufficient. So when you get to, but what happened for New Zealanders that were here from 94, so when the law changed that time, they were slapped on with this temporary visa, but nobody actually noticed any difference because nobody was getting deported, nobody was being denied Centrelink, nobody was being denied disability support, nobody was being denied single parent payments, all of that kind of stuff. Nobody was being denied any of that. So it seemed like, oh, I don't need anything else. I'm sweet. You get to 2001.
Yeah, because that's the one that I thought was the
government.
significant one, the first significant one, but it's 94 before that. Anyway, carry on.
Well, it actually starts from 86 where they changed the rules about babies being born in Australia to New Zealand parents. So from 86 to 94, our babies weren't citizens until their 10th birthday. And
their 10, eh?
Yeah, that group. So it chops and changes. So there's a period where you're a citizen at birth, so pre-1986, August 1986. Then from 20th of August 86 to the 30th of August 94, we're not citizens. So our babies are not citizens at birth. They have to wait for their 10th birthday.
Yeah. So on that one. Oh, sorry, is there another one?
No, sorry. Let me hang on. Did I say? Oh, yeah, August to 94. Yeah, that group. They're not citizens at birth.
So on that though, if you have children that are born here, and then you become a citizen before their 10th birthday, can they become citizen, or you have to apply for that?
Oh, so the kids can be included, but if they turn 10 during the citizenship process, they have to be pulled off your application, and they have to do it the other way, which is evidence of citizenship.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Sweet.
So they can get it either way.
Okay. Either
And
way.
then
Okay.
94 to 2001, that was when the special category visa was introduced. So remember, this is when we become L platers.
Yeah.
Well, our babies born in that window of time are citizens at birth. So we go from being citizens at birth pre-86 to not citizens at birth from 86 to 94. Then from 94 to 2001, our babies are citizens from birth. From 2001 to 2022, if you're a New Zealander that come after a certain date, your babies are not citizens at birth. They have to wait for their 10th birthday. And now, since the law changed last year, or well, almost to the day, a couple of days ago, they announced it last year that our babies that were born after the 1st of July 2022 to New Zealand parents in Australia are now citizens at birth again.
Oh, wow. Wow.
But a birth certificate doesn't tell you what your immigration status is. So you have to know the laws and the chops and changes to figure out what your babies are. And, you know, if they have to wait till they're 10, you have to know what you have to do to get their
like you say, they don't put no memos out about it either. Like, just boom, change the law. Holy Rick, you're just meant to know.
Yeah, you're just meant to know. So it's a massive, massive issue. And one of the things that I'm really personally passionate about, is I get really angry about, is when people get wrongly assessed by government departments and they miss out on things that they legally and lawfully were entitled to because they are not being assessed correctly against the law. So what happens is that you have a whole lot of government.
Is that the government agencies? Is that more their fault, or is it more the human being that doesn't know their status? Like, or
it's a government agency, and I don't know how they expect
should
the
know
human
anyway,
beings to know, because we don't get the piece of paper to start telling us in the first place. So what's happening is that our people for many years have been getting these blanket assessments by administrators, public servants that don't understand all those chops and changes with the law, like the citizenship.
Oh, so even they don't get educated, really, eh? So even they don't get educated. The people who are assessing the our people, they don't get educated on the chops and changes at all either.
No, not really, because no, not at all. So that's a big problem. That those agencies have to be properly educated and trained in order to be able to assess New Zealanders, especially. So over the years, I've spent many hours on the phone to International Services, which is a branch of Centrelink that handles the Trans-Tasman travel arrangements and the reciprocal agreements between New Zealand and Australia. We've had to advocate many times over the years because of this. There's all this grey area, and people, like I said, unless you study it, but even then, I've never met another migration agent or immigration lawyer in Australia that understands the laws the way I do. And I'm not saying that to blow myself up. It's because I'm a New Zealand. It affects me in my whānau, so I have a vested interest in it. I want to know every little nook, cranny, nuts, bolts. I want to know it all. Whereas if you're someone who doesn't have any skin in the bloody game, you're only going to learn what you think you need to know and then bail. And to be honest, a lot of our professionals, my colleagues in the industry, they don't focus on New Zealanders. We're just a smidgen of the market when it comes to assisting people with immigration stuff. So why would you invest all of that time and energy in a very small part of what your business probably is?
Yeah.
Whereas people like myself, it affects us. It affects us to this day. We still have our whānau that are impacted. So anyway.
No. So you as you're saying, like, that doesn't mean that they don't exist, but you haven't really come across someone that knows the inside, like knows the law inside out when it comes to migration, specifically for our people too, like you do. So I think that's cool. I think you should speak on that, and that shows why you're important in your realm, but in for our people in general. So keep doing it. It's awesome.
Yeah. We just, you just want to find out the right information. you don't really care how it comes about. You just want the right information to be presented. And, I've done information sessions in recent years, and one of my opening lines when I'm all good talking to people face to face. So I'm really comfortable with that. But one of my opening lines to our people is, if you're someone who's tried researching this stuff and you can't make head or tail of it, don't feel bad, because it actually doesn't make sense. What's happened is that the laws have been changed and adjusted, amended, tweaked here and there, to the point where a lot of it doesn't make any sense. And when you try and create the logical line of how did things come about, you start going down that political route. And all it is people are covering themselves and changing stuff. I describe it like a patchwork quilt. That's a whole lot of mismatched stuff has been tacked together. And it's so messy now that it's in the too hard basket, and nobody wants to address it. Nobody wants to deal with it. Nobody wants to take ownership or responsibility. And, a year ago, we saw the Albanese government turn around and allow us direct access to citizenship. So just to finish off that kōrero about the driver's license. So the New Zealanders that were here between 1999 and 2001, they're a unique, like this can go, I could talk for hours about this on its own.
This doesn't have to be the last time we sit down either,
But that window of time, those migrants, those New Zealand citizens, are the only ones who hold an L plate and a P plate at the same time, simultaneously. So they are temporary residents by legal definition under the Migration Act. And they are permanent residents by legal definition under the Citizenship Act. And they are permanent residents for the purposes of Social Security, which is why they're allowed to get that's why they can access things. And they can also access things like the National Disability Insurance Scheme, so NDIS. So those guys, and to this day, it's still the same. They've got access to all that. And then what happened last year when they made the changes with the laws, they said, okay, for all of you other New Zealanders that come after the law change in February 2001, you fellas can have the L and the P plate again. Because this is what we were missing. We were missing the P plate. So we were having to find ways to get permanent visas for, a lot of the families that's what we've been doing for a number of years now, which is a costly process, and it's a time-consuming process to go from the L plate to the P plate to the full license. So what the government essentially said to us last year was, okay, you fellas can have your L plate and your P plate back, but you can only have your P plate for citizenship. You can't have it for Centrelink, you can't have it for NDIS, you can't have it for other things, but you can have it for citizenship. So if you want to be able to access everything in the future, you have to do citizenship. So the P plate means nothing to us unless we use it.
Oh, okay. So
so we've been given a free pass.
Sort of.
That's right. There are still problems. And one of the issues I have with the government, I'm very grateful, and I don't like to bite the hand that feeds you type thing. But I'm also really annoyed with them because they didn't seek consultation from people like myself who live and breathe this stuff and work in amongst. Literally. And what was happening was a lot of our people fell through the cracks. A lot of our people that paid thousands of dollars right before the announcement, so during the time the government knew that they were going to make the law changes, they didn't even forewarn us. They didn't stop our people from paying the thousands of dollars for visas, like literally up until the day of the announcements. And it was like, they won't issue refunds. They made millions and millions from us just within a couple of months. In a window of time from December last year to December, year before now, 22 to April of 23, they were still taking the money from our people, knowing full well that they were going to make the P plate, the permanent visas redundant. They're not even going to be needed. But on top of that, if you got a permanent visa in that time, you couldn't apply for citizenship straight away from the 1st of July like everyone else could, unless you had one particular type of permanent visa. So what happened was our people that paid all the money, went through the hard yards, followed the rules, did the right thing, all that sacrifice, like huge sacrifice, especially for families with kids, it's mega bucks.
Yeah.
They did all of that. Then on top of that, they're told that, oh, you don't need it now. Everyone else can get it for
But
free.
we're not going to give you the money back.
Are going, sweet, luckily I didn't do mine, suckers. But, for the people that had paid mega bucks were like understandably really upset. Like, that's money that they could have spent on other things. Anyway, but the government just said basically hard luck. We tried to do a petition, but we couldn't get many people to sign it because people were just over it and not really kind of in the loop of what was going on. And on top of that, government didn't even get back to us. So I write hard out to government, about issues. I'm still driven to do that kind of stuff. But yeah, and those people were penalised. So all the other New Zealanders that didn't do the visas, they were allowed to apply for citizenship from the 1st of July last year, whereas these ones that just got these new visas, some of them couldn't. They had to wait because you normally have to wait a whole 12 months before you're allowed to apply for citizenship. So it was like a double whammy. They wasted all this money, plus they then have to wait. And I thought, Australian government, you said that you acknowledge that New Zealanders have been treated unfairly, that, it's been wrong, what's been happening. You want to treat us the same as, or very similar to how New Zealand treats you guys. But then you guys have done, like, you've missed how is that right? Like, do the right thing and show that you are acting out of goodwill. Allow those New Zealanders, when you knew that you were going to change the rules, when you knew that they wouldn't need, it's like selling something off the shelf that's is going to become obsolete.
Yeah. Actually,
yeah. I'm not an expert in consumer law, but I've heard that you're not allowed to do that. Like retailers and that can get into trouble if they sell stuff that they know is going to become obsolete. So I don't know what the difference is here.
It's like selling those like the old iPhone, and then there's not going to be any more charges, like any more old iPhone charges. It all goes to USB-C. And sorry, cuss. Unlucky.
Yeah, exactly. So that's some of the stuff that goes on. So, from a business side, we do the practical stuff. We assess people, we work out strategies, we it can be more complicated if they've got family members that are not New Zealand citizens, so they might come from other countries. And
do you focus primarily on New Zealand citizens, or you can do it for anybody? Like
we can help anybody. Yeah, we can help anybody. I mean, for me, it started out about the New Zealand stuff, and I'm still really passionate about the New Zealand stuff because it's not over. I can't wait for the whole thing to be over. Like, when I say over, I mean just to iron out all of these, these parts that are still not right. So what's happening now? Oh, look, I'm going off on another tangent. There's so many tangents.
Good.
So what's happening now? Normally, once you got citizenship, that solved all your problems, right?
Yep.
But now what we're seeing happen, that's new for us, is we're seeing that people are getting citizenship. Some of them are like our single parents. So we love them to get citizenship because then they can access payments and, single parent payments and things like that if they need it.
But for you.
Oh, mate, it's a huge area. But now what's happening is that this rule has come out that they've got to wait another 2 years after citizenship.
Before they can get payment.
What? No way. 2 years is a long time for, like, why? And so a lot of these parents have got Aussie kids, like Australian citizen kids. It doesn't make sense. This is the type of stuff that nobody seems to really push and talk about, like within the realms of government and politicians. And we see a lot of stuff that happens.
Like if you watched it on TV like last year or in the newspapers or on social media, pretty much you were told like, oh, you're going to be a citizen, like, and you get the same benefits and all that. Not even.
Not even. Look, it will secure you from getting your visa cancelled if for whatever reason. There are other benefits. You can access NDIS right away. and certain things. But this is what we see with immigration law. It's the most amended law in Australia, which is why it's very difficult to keep up to speed with, because it changes all the time.
Okay.
The other problem is that you've got these changes happening. You're trying to keep people up to speed. Then other departments are making changes. Politicians don't really know how the systems work. They rely a lot of the time on their advisors. So even though the politicians are often just the mouthpiece,
Yeah,
like
of course.
you cannot be expert in everything.
I don't think it's often. I don't think they are.
But and I try to
be
encourage
honest, they
people.
just win a popularity contest every few years or whatever it is.
Oh,
yeah.
And the thing is, it's unless it's going to win them votes, I call it currency. When you're a citizen, you've got some currency. You've got some bargaining power now. And if we study groups of people, minority groups around the world throughout history that did not have the privilege of the power of the vote, we can see historically that minority groups or groups that can't vote inevitably become marginalized, inevitably have their rights trampled over, inevitably don't have a voice. So one of the big things we wanted to do when I started Morunga Migration, my little chant in my head was, I'm building an army of voters. And I don't care if it takes me 20, 30 years to get a good handful out there. That's what we're doing, because we need that. We need that type of currency to have a voice. So we want to encourage people to, learn a little bit about politics, learn about your federal members in your area, learn who you can go to, understand that it's okay to complain, because we're people that will often suffer in silence and not, if we're suffering with something, we can be too shy to say something, or we just think, oh, well, this is my lot in life, I just have to handle it. I think we're really
you're just
resilient
told growing
people.
up to shut up here and just carry on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and some of us are too staunch, too proud to say all of that kind of stuff. But it's really important that we start to activate our voices in a way that we learn who to talk to. Like, learn to talk to your federal members. Learn to be like Australia does. The squeaky wheel gets the oil. Don't be shy. Say, if you've got a problem and your immigration status is affecting it, go to your local members, tell them what's going on. They might not do anything in the short term, but the more people that tell their stories, because the thing is, we see the stories because we work in the space. We can't publicize a lot of the stories because of privacy and confidentiality. We wish we could, because it would really blow the lid on all of the things that go wrong. But if people start talking to their members, those members will eventually cotton on more and more. When these conversations come up in Parliament, members aren't switching off because they're like, oh, well, no one's come complaining to me in my area, so it must be just a couple of people over there, that are. But actually, it's across Australia. So anyway, that's just there's heaps of work still to do that we have to do. And my goal, even though I run Morunga Migration, my goal is actually to step away from my business and carry on with advocacy. That's where I really want to be. And I'm lucky that I've got two awesome wahine that support me, and they're registered and qualified and experienced now.
Who are these
and
ladies?
They do.
Who are they?
Yeah, so but they're both. So there's Kathleen Siulua. She is based in Blacktown, Sydney. We've got an office that just opened there in January. So that's awesome. Yeah. She runs our office there at West Point. So people can book in and go and meet with her. Kath used to actually work for immigration back in 2000 to 2010. She's been a public servant for most of her career, and she became a migration agent about 2.5 or 2 and a bit years ago now. And she's been with me ever since, and she's absolute gold. She's amazing, intelligent.
What is auntie? She's Samoan or
Tongan. So she's born in Auckland.
She's a toko.
Born in
Hey,
Auckland.
that's good. She
She was born in Auckland and migrated to Australia with her parents when in the 70s. So when she was just a
true.
baby.
So she's a part of that before 94 Taki that you're talking about, eh?
Yes, that's it. And then we've got G or Glenda, we call her G. She's based in Auckland, and she's actually my cousin, and she's come through. She's been with me for about over 4 years now. But she did the studies and became a migration agent because first she just
Back
helped
home,
out as an
migration
admin
agent, or here? Like, I'm confused on that.
for both countries. So
Oh,
she
okay.
did
Wow.
New Zealand studies, but when you study in New Zealand, you can get your license for Australia and vice versa because of it's under the Trans-Tasman
that's cool.
agreements. Yeah. So she's got license for both.
Well,
But
hopefully
anyway,
they don't change those agreements, eh? No.
well, that's why we wanted to hurry up and get your license because things can change. And things can change without forewarning. Like we had no idea the government were going to open up the pathway for citizenship, which is awesome. But had we have known, we had been telling people for a long time, just taihoa, just wait, don't apply for anything yet. Some people said, I don't trust the government, let's just do it. Others said, okay, we'll wait. And, they were glad that they did when the announcements came about. But yeah, that's probably enough. That's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, no, I feel like we should do another one, like in time too. Maybe even if there's any, I don't know, something that's going on in society, and you're like, hey, I want to come on and have another yarn. Hit me up. But for anybody that is listening to this, what do you do? Like, what do you do exactly? Like, if someone goes, okay, what's your, what's the
mahi? Yep. Yeah. Okay. So we are what's called registered migration agents. That means we have done the formal training, we've gone to uni, we've done all the studied immigration law, and then we've got registered, so we're licensed. Our role is we help people with anything to do with immigration. So visa cancellations, visa applications, citizenship stuff, character issues. So if you're worried that you've got convictions or like criminal record and you want some advice, we can give you advice about that. We can look at your case specifically, and we're quite experienced. We're really experienced with that type of stuff. So we can give you our professional opinion about whether we think you should apply or not. In many cases, we think people should apply, but we need to make sure that we understand their whole background and history and where they're at right now to make that difference. We help with the actual application, so we do the paperwork as well. We can do appeals, so appeal cases to what's called the Administrative Appeals Tribunal. So if your application gets rejected by immigration, not in all cases, but most cases, you can go through an appeals process. So we can do those types of things. We write submissions. We do a lot of that. We help people with put their evidence together, statutory declarations. We try and help our people as much as possible. We'll help as much as what people need. And we also offer webinars every Monday at the moment for 3 months. We're doing $25 webinars, which is cheap. Like our normal consultation fees range from around $330 to $660 an hour.
Get amongst it, fun. Get amongst it. Then $25 every Monday, 3 months. Let's go.
Yeah, $25, and it's a 3-hour webinar. You do get a break in between, and we also give you a ton of resources. And this is for people who want to do their own citizenship application because they don't want to pay someone like us to do it, which is Kate Pai. We don't mind that. We're concerned that a lot of information we see on social media or floating around, the grapevine is incorrect information, and it can potentially put people at risk with their applications. It's important to always do it right, do it the best way you can, because there can be repercussions even years down the track if the paperwork wasn't done properly. And my one word of advice to people is immigration is unforgiving. If there's one area of law you don't want to muck around with, it's immigration law. It is worse than criminal law. Like the consequences impact the whole whānau, not just the individual. It's massive, so not worth it. Worthwhile getting some proper advice.
How do they reach out to you then? What's the channels?
Okay, so we've got some Facebook pages, but we've got our website. Our website's the most important kind of channel for people to find us on and book So you can book an appointment to meet with us either face-to-face. I'm in South Australia, but most of my meetings with people are through Zoom or Teams or Facebook video call. And so we normally meet people through that type of medium, go through the process, we learn about your situation. Everyone's situation is different, even if it looks the same on the surface. It's not. Many people tell us their cases are straightforward, but rarely in our experience do we ever find that a case is straightforward. We love it when we have straightforward cases, but it doesn't happen often because you're dealing with immigration, and immigration's job is to turn every stone over to make sure you're the kind of person they want to give a visa to or they want to give citizenship to. So we do everything we can to advocate and support, and provide a professional service that really awhi's, and we surround our families that we work with all of the manaakitanga that they need and the practical support, because this is something that people sometimes find difficult to find, is that professional support that gives you, that understands you and understands what you need and meets you, especially when it comes to doing paperwork or trying to deal with technology. And a lot of our older people aren't so confident with that type of stuff. So we've got lots of ways that we've, give us a number 8 wire and we'll figure out a way to fix things. And that's what we've done, I guess, with our business, is just try to meet people where they're at and then help them through the process, and the aim is to hopefully get them to be successful. That's the goal.
Morunga
Migration.
Yeah, there we go. That's the website, and just Morunga Migration on all the socials as well, eh? That's all.
Yeah. If you Google Morunga Migration, hopefully something will come up.
No, I'll put it in the, if you I'll send it to me, whatever they are, and then I'll put them in the description of the episode as well. So hopefully, Whanau can just click on the description if you're listening audibly, or if you're watching on YouTube. I got a couple of quick questions before we do go. Is that all right?
Sure, go for it.
Okay. If you could only have one meal for the rest of your life, what do you choose?
Boil up.
Yeah, how you have the boil up? Because there's many ways.
Oh.
How do you have your boil up? What do you have in it?
I love watercress, puha, pork bones, bacon bones.
Watercress and puha together, or just?
I can do, but so either watercress or puha, I don't mind. Probably bacon bones is my favorite. Pork bones is my next favorite.
Yes. And doughboys, because I hear some people saying they're not fans of doughboys. Are you a fan of doughboys?
Nah, I don't like doughboys.
Nah, you one of those cousins. They don't like the doughboys.
Yeah.
More for me,
people like me because they take my doughboys.
Can't play. That's sweet as. If you could have one superpower, which one do you choose and why?
One superpower would be to be able to be. If I had a superpower, I would want it to be making people do the right thing, like have a way of reading people to do the right thing and then support them.
That's nice. Very empathetic.
That's my.
I like that.
Yeah.
So 10 years, give us a little visualization. 10 years from now, Erina Morunga Migration. What do things look like? You said you want to move more out of your business and go towards advocacy. So can you maybe speak on that, if that's what it is, or maybe you and your hubby got your feet up in the Bahamas somewhere. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I'm a real animal lover. I love spending time with our kuri's. So we've got a couple of dogs, and probably 10 years time, I'd like to still be doing advocacy and education, raising awareness, education in the realms of migration. But I also want to be able to work with people to help lift them up out of the place that they might be in. And this has got nothing to do with immigration, but this is just from a personal life experience. If they find themselves in difficult places and they need someone to awhi and support them to get out of that and move towards their goals, I want to be able to awhi, because I feel like I can bring a lot to that, because I've been in some pretty yuck places throughout my life, and but I feel like I understand that, and I know how hard it can be, and I know having the right people to support you can take you so much further. So nurture their self-belief in people and then encourage them to take the steps and fly. But that's really where I want to go.
Yeah, beautiful. Last one. South Australian Tourism Board comes to your door and they say sell South Australia to people and why they should live here or visit. What do you say?
Yeah, I say South Australia is pretty awesome. It's got, you got heaps of vineyards. You got lots of things to see here. You don't have crocodiles. You don't have crocodiles here. You don't have cane toads. You do have brown snakes, but we won't promote that. No, and it's a real laid back state. It's a pretty laid back, chill state. It's pretty spread out. Heaps to see and do. It's pretty cold here, so it can be bushfire prone, but come the winter months, even autumn, it's freezing now. So we tend to have longer, compared to the Queensland and the higher states. But it's a pretty cool state, old South Australia.
Yeah, too much. Well, time's the most valuable commodity we have as human beings, Erina. So thank you for sharing your time with us. And hopefully it's not the last time we sit down, maybe even in the flesh sometime. Much love to you and your whānau and everything that you do. I think it's beautiful mahi, and I think it's amazing that you from having sleepless nights, not being able to, cope with, what was going on in the immigration space, and then being the mad scientist detective and putting it all over your walls to creating this beautiful business where you help people and continue to, and you're pushing towards advocacy. I think it's beautiful. So keep doing what you do. We need more people like yourself, and hopefully there can be people that follow behind you. Be cool.
Oh, thank you for having me, Shabs, and lovely to meet you.
No, kei te pai, and we'll talk soon, and hopefully people take something from this episode, even if it's just to click on your links and then begin the journey, or pass it on to their whānau that might be in the same, whether they are in New Zealand or wherever. This, the magic of the internet. This could be anywhere in the world. They could listen to this Spotify, Apple Podcast, or even on YouTube and everywhere. So thank you again, and much love to your whānau.
Oh, kia ora.
Thank you so much for watching this full episode of Mind the Mic. It takes a lot of time, energy, and effort to create these episodes. So to know that you've watched and listened to the entire thing means the world to myself and all our hosts. If you could, before you leave, please hit the subscribe button and share this episode out to as many people as possible. It would help us so much. Thank you again to everybody that's still here, still watching. Thank you for all your comments, all your shares, all the DMs. Appreciate you all. Make sure you follow us on every platform. Have an awesome morning. Have an awesome night, depending on where you are in the world. Mind the mic out.
Oi, have you hit the link in bio yet?
Watch full episodes on YouTube or listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all streaming platforms.